This is Brent of the Brook Bush Institute, and in this video we're going to go over the quadruped, which we typically use for transverse abdominis or intrinsic stabilization subsystem activation. This is definitely one of those fundamental core exercises I think everybody should know. I'm going to have my friend Adam come out. He's going to help me demonstrate this exercise. Now the first thing we're going to do is get Adam into quadruped position, which ideally would actually be a 6-point position, and that is hands underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips, and then notice Adam's dorsiflexed here so that he can engage his feet, push back a little bit, which is going to help engage his glutes a little bit. All right, now the whole point behind the quadruped position is to put yourself in a position where your abdominal contents weigh down against your anterior abdominal wall. So now there's actually some resistance to the drawing in maneuver. All right, and that drawing in maneuver is just bringing your belly button in, kind of not sucking in the sense that you're like as hard as you possibly can, but just gently pulling your lower abdomen away from your waistband is probably a good cue. Now once we get Adam doing that, the next thing we probably want to do is make sure he's still breathing, because people have a tendency to draw in or suck in and then they stop breathing. That's going to make this exercise very difficult if we're going to do this for 30, 60, 90 seconds. All of a sudden Adam turns blue, exercise is kind of over. All right, so he's drawn in, he's looking good. Now, what we're going to do is challenge his ability to use those muscles to aid in stabilization of his torso as we add certain stability or balance challenges to this. Now, to ensure he's doing this perfectly, I'm going to use this softball on his back. This becomes a kinesthetic cue where I'm going to go, okay, Adam, for all the stuff that we do, you can't lose this ball. This ball has to stay right here. And if you can, I don't even want it to move, right? I really want you to try to kind of feel this, make sure you stay drawn in and hold that ball right there. Now this is tough for some people. Just doing this right here, especially if we're talking about somebody with lumbar spine pain, can be a pretty serious challenge to hold on to for 30 seconds. Now, if we can get somebody past this, the first challenge I'll give them is just go, okay, you're going to be the tabletop, but we're going to start removing legs. Well, in this case, your arms. I'm going to have you just slowly march, just like this, right? And guys, all I'm having him do is this, real nice and slow, working on moving this ball as little as possible, maintaining the drawing in maneuver, and breathing. Of course, he should feel his feet engaged. He's got his glutes engaged because he's kind of pushing back through the floor. And you see Adam's got this down pretty good. But I can tell you guys, Adam's not only a friend, he has been a patient of mine. He's had periods of low back pain. And no matter how good he gets at quadrupeds and some of the other progressions that we'll show in later videos, sometimes he has to come back to this because pain creates some reflexive changes in our motor unit recruitment that'll make this hard for him again. How's that feeling?
Tough.
Pretty tough. Yeah, once you add this ball, the whole game changes. Now, we're going to increase the lever length here on his arms as our next progression. What I'm going to have him do is go into Scaption, which is just thumb up, arm elevation, just out a little bit, so not quite straight, but out this way a little bit. It tends to feel a little bit better on the shoulder to go thumb up. And you can see now he's essentially taking away the same amount of stability as he was with marching, but adding this gives a bigger lever for him to have to stabilize against. Nice job, Adam. Nice job. All right, you guys can see he's maintaining the ball. And of course, drawing in maneuver is still right there. Adam's a pro. So next, what do we got? Well, the next progression, there is a little bit of controversy over the next progression. If you're asking me, I think the next progression is opposite arm, opposite leg raise. There are some people who think just legs is the next progression. Now here's the theory behind these two things so you guys can make a professional decision on which way you think you should go. I think opposite arm, opposite leg raise is easier than just legs because if he lifts this leg, this arm essentially counterbalances this leg. When he doesn't have this arm, he doesn't have a counterbalance. Now, The alternative argument is if he does just his leg, he still has 3 points of support, which he doesn't have when he does opposite arm, opposite leg. I usually don't find that having the 3 supports helps all that much, but we could go in either direction. And you guys might have to experiment a little bit. I find more often than not, I go from marching to scaption to opposite arm leg raise. So let's go through that for sure now, Adam. So he's gonna go this arm, right arm, is gonna go out into scaption while he goes straight back with his left leg. Now notice when he goes back with his leg, I'm actually gonna have him point his toe, plantar flex, good. And notice his toe is just a couple inches from the floor. If Adam tries to go up with his leg instead, you can see he immediately goes into lumbar extension, which is what we don't want. Remember, the whole idea behind these exercises is maintaining the drawing in maneuver and keeping all of this incredibly steady, right? It's a stabilization exercise, no motion. So I always say reach back, not up. Oh, that's 1 point. 1 point gone. This is like golf though. The higher your score, the worse you are, right? So here we go, opposite arm, opposite leg. Adam did pretty good on that one. And then he can come back and he can try to switch, which is really tough. Good. And then if you're asking me, I actually think now let's try just legs. All right, we're gonna try just switching legs. Make sure you come all the way back to dorsiflexion on your other leg. Oop. There you go, sorry, I gave him too many cues there. All right, so point your toe out on the way out. There we go, perfect. And then back. There we go. Drive into this foot a little bit so that you get stable, and then go with the other leg. There you go. Dorsiflex, get that toe in, good. Drive into this foot, now back with this leg. Good. Do you find this harder or the opposite arm, opposite leg raise harder?
This one.
Yeah, so he finds legs harder. And I think with a healthy population, guys, for the most part, you're gonna find that just legs is actually really, really challenging. Now, if you want to take away a point of contact, we can. We can make yet another progression and go, okay, Adam, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go just this leg, right? Just your left leg. And I'm gonna remove this support, right? So we're gonna have you put your your right hand on your left shoulder. There you go, can't get my lefts and rights straight. I can get all the muscles straight, but not my lefts and rights. That's awesome. Good, and then we're gonna go just this leg, and that's actually really challenging. This is not an easy progression to do at all. How does that feel?
Super tough.
Super tough. Takes a lot to draw in. He's even getting some good glute activation. It takes some thought to like learn to drive through this leg so he gets some glute stabilization here. And notice that ball is staying. That's tough. This is the key, guys. Adam's making this look way easier than it actually is. All right, so there you guys have it. This is the quadruped. You can put your arm down for a second. This is the quadruped for transverse abdominis activation, when in actuality, if you guys go back to my article on the intrinsic stabilization subsystem, is transverse abdominis activation is always activation of all these other muscles too that stabilize the lumbar spine but are a little bit deeper. All right, so this is intrinsic stabilization subsystem activation more accurately. I think this is one of those foundational core exercises. This is how we started, is on the floor in quadruped position with first just arms marching, then arms with scaption, then opposite arm leg raise, then just legs, then legs with one support removed. And then from here, we could go into things like the hardest quadruped progression ever, which we have a video on that, dynamic quadrupeds, or Adam's gonna be showing you guys his resisted quadruped crawl in a future video. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments box below. Thank you, Adam.